Okay, everybody, welcome back. It is Manny here. I'm super excited to do this. I talked a little bit about it with a few people on my Instagram, um, but I'm super excited to start this new milestone meet thing. And so I've reached out to um, diving extraordinaire Olympian 2016 platform USA team member Jessica Parratto, and we are going to run through. I asked her. I said, "What meet would you want to do if we were to do like a meet that meant a lot to you or something that you were surprised about?" And she's like, immediately was like, the Olympics semifinal. And I'm like, okay. So I had to dive in and try to find it, but I did, and I invited her on the call, so she's here with me, and we're gonna run through these dives, and we're gonna have a good time. Are you excited, Jess?
Yes, I'm so excited. I've actually never seen this before, so this is going to be interesting. Very, very excited.
I I'm really excited too. Just because I think your initial reactions to seeing these dives, you're just gonna be like,
I
I
know.
think it's gonna like, I don't know, it might even like have an impact on you to like help your next, run for the Olympics in this next year maybe.
Right? I feel like it's going to be motivating. Like I'm trying to remember how each dive went, and I know some went like pretty well, and I'm trying to think of the others, and I don't really remember exactly. So I'm interested to see that for sure.
So when I originally found the video, I reached out to a few friends. I was like, okay, so me and Jess are doing the semifinal. She dove great, but I was like, you know what? Like, I think you are so much better now than you were
Oh my god, that means so much.
in this meet. Honestly, I think you at Winter Nationals, like all you guys were diving your ass off, but I was like, you, just look a whole lot better. So that's why I said like you might even look at this and be like, you know what? Like, I'm ready to go.
Right? Yeah, no, Winter Nationals is a great competition. There's such a deep field within women's platform diving. So, I mean, with this next year happening, it's going to be quite the competition, I think, at trials.
I love to see it, and I hate to say this, I hate watching bad diving, but I love watching USA women's 10 meter because I'm like, there's always going to be someone's going to be doing something up there for sure. So I'm excited. Anyway, so let's hop in this. This is your first time seeing this, so round one,
Okay,
we
here
got
we go.
107B. Do you remember anything prior, after? I mean, before, whatever prior means. I don't know. Um, do you
Okay,
remember
so
anything?
I remember, so this was actually a 10 a.m. semi. I do remember that. And I was a little nervous about it because I'm not usually a good morning diver, right? So I'd
Hmm.
always told my coach, like, not a good morning diver. Like, I dove really well at prelims. In the prelim, I actually got a PB in the prelim and ended up third. And that was like at 4 p.m. I remember it was 4 p.m.
Hmm.
And I was like, Drew, I got to get ready for the semifinal, 10 a.m. Like, so I woke up super early, woke up at like literally 5:15. And I remember I was the first one at the pool. I beat the Chinese at the pool. I was like, heck yeah, like I beat them. But I remember getting a list in before, and it was pretty good. I felt all right, and it was a beautiful day. I do remember that. But yeah, I think I was like pretty at ease, honestly, at this competition, like at this like specific semifinal.
Hmm.
So yeah,
Can
I
I
mean, I
ask
don't.
like what kept you so like grounded really quick before we hop in?
It's weird. Like I did not expect to feel so mellow. Like I think it was really just the advice that I was given by our then high performance director Steve Foley, and he was just like, "No one's gonna remember how you dove at this meet. Like no one's gonna remember your score. No one's gonna remember this and that. But you're gonna remember, what you took away from it, and just like how you felt and the way you carry yourself." And I was just like, "Okay, I'm just gonna be myself. I'm not gonna try too hard. I'm just gonna be positive. I'm trying to just dive and be myself. Like just be me." And I don't know what or why, like I just seriously dove so well because I was not trying to like. I think it was just because I didn't really have expectation on myself. I was just trying to like dive the way I knew how, dive the way I did in training, and for some reason it worked. It stuck.
Well, let's see what happens. Okay, are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay.
A little bit over.
Hmm.
Good start though.
So this was 4 years ago. Holy cow.
4 years ago. That's nuts.
Hmm. So like, what's different now? So you still compete this dive, right? So what's different
Yep.
now about this dive? And
Man, I'm trying to think. Honestly, I feel like my pike. Oh, that's a good shot.
It is. I love that picture of you.
Oh my gosh. I feel like I've gotten better at pike saving, honestly.
Hmm.
I think that was a little too deep, but
Well, let me go back and look.
yeah, maybe not. I'm trying to
That's
think.
what I like the underwaters because no one really focuses on underwater stuff as much. I'm like, I don't know why people don't think about it.
Yeah, that looked a tiny bit delayed. Yeah, a little bit delayed to me for some reason, and I think I might have ducked my head a bit,
Hmm.
which obviously is a little bit of the reason why I went over. But
Yeah, you did go kind of deep, huh?
it was a bit deep. Yeah, so I feel like I've been working a lot on my underwaters these past 4 years, so I think they've gotten a little bit better.
So you said you ducked your head. Do
It looks like from the last second I might have.
you think that was just because you're like, oh, I don't want to go short, like last second?
I think so. Yeah.
That's what happens. Probably had a little bit nervous on your first dive.
Sometimes in my I have a lot of like adrenaline on my first dive, especially on like this front. So that's why I probably went a little bit over.
I love your fronts. I think they're so good.
Thank you. It's
But
definitely one of my favorite dives. It's always been.
so, what were you looking at? Oh, did they have the replay on the board?
Um, they did, but I would try not to watch it, even though it
Hmm.
was definitely tempting.
Okay, so I don't know what dive this is. I think it's
Okay, so this is back, I believe. I think I switched my order and I put back second.
for the Olympics.
Yeah, I think I did it. Why am I making that face? Okay.
Wow.
Yes. So this was one of my most consistent dives throughout all three lists in Rio.
Hmm.
A little bit delayed with the head. That's my tendency. I mean, accurate, just a little splashy.
What do you think about like so like what were you do you remember anything about like when you were like on the board or like what you're walking up like what is that how does that go for you?
I feel like I was pretty confident going into this dive, and then I just remember underwater, like I knew I went straight in. I was like, yes.
Hmm.
I think that hitting this dive especially really helped set me up for the rest of my list. So then moving forward, I just felt a lot more confident. That's
So
definitely a delayed takeoff.
so why did you change it though in the last like right in the Olympic like semi maybe for the Olympic Games altogether? Why
So
did
I
you change it?
changed it for Olympic trials.
Oh, okay.
But still, obviously, that's kind of a big deal to change your list order at Olympic trials.
Hmm.
I think it was just because I kind of wanted to get it over with, to be completely honest. But it's also the fact that like if I were to hit the dive, it really allows me to like I don't know feel a lot more confident going to the rest of my dives, like I was saying.
Yeah.
But I like to put inward in the middle because that's kind of my struggle dive, and I didn't want to put inward second. I think that was the main reason.
Yeah, I think that's so smart. I think I like list order is extremely important because it's
Yeah,
like all about your confidence, right? So like if you start out with a dive you're not confident with, it's gonna be hard. You probably not gonna feel confident again until like round 4 or 5 if you mess it up.
exactly. I
But
love
I'm
that.
like you should put something a little bit more shady in the middle.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And that has always been my struggle dive, and so I definitely wanted to be able to just confidently have a dive that I know I can at least do better than that.
Yeah, so you actually went back to doing it tuck recently, and I thought you did your back 3.5s were amazing at trials last December.
I mean, they were just a lot more consistent, and in training, it was so hard to train to a 7B, and it was a good dive for a little bit. It went really well at 2017 Worlds. It got me into the finals there,
Hmm.
but it just for training purposes, and I'm getting a little bit older. It was just a lot easier to train. So, all
I see.
right, inward. Here we go.
So this is the one you're kind of like a little shaky.
A little shaky. So yeah, a little bit short. This was probably, I think, it was probably my best inward of the meet because I just don't think it went as well in prelims. Maybe
Hmm.
it did. I don't know. But I
So
did end up going a little bit short, like shorter than this, in the final. But I mean, it wasn't terrible, but it was still definitely. I don't know. I think I got sixes, maybe.
I I honestly think this was pretty good.
I don't know if I'm just being hard on myself, but
I didn't see the other ones, but I just thought this was pretty good actually. I mean, the only obviously main thing is you just went a little bit short on it, but like
yeah, the come out was just a little bit. That's my struggle a little bit is the come out,
How
the wind.
so? What do you mean?
I just struggle with the consistency of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm piking out here, but if I don't get the top that I like, it's like harder for me to like commit to the pike out.
Oh, I see.
Um, so this was okay. I mean, I would say this would be like I'd be happy with this, definitely.
It's so interesting because I feel like you, yeah, I guess it does come down to feeling confident on the top. And that's one thing I tell the kids. I'm like, the last thing you should do, I'm like, you should always commit to like a come out, but not like change your come out based on the takeoff.
Exactly. So that's something we've also Drew and I have been working on is just like committing to that pike out,
Mm-hmm.
regardless of the takeoff. But it's a little deep as well with the hike save.
Mm-hmm. Fun. Oh my gosh. So, I mean, it's obviously hard to not go deep when you go short on that front.
Oh, that's 7. That's actually shocking. I thought I'd got 6.5 on that.
I think that was a good. That was probably 7.5. Yeah. It's not like it was like an awkward splash, a little bit splashy, but not like terrible.
Yeah, yeah. Kind of quality short, as Drew would say.
So you've even changed this dive.
Yes, so this is my 626. I
Mm-hmm.
miss it, kind of. So yeah, my hand placement here.
Yeah.
This was kind of controversial, and I'll talk about it in a second. But this dive was my best dive of
Mm-hmm.
the Olympics.
Ooh.
That one felt good. I'm not gonna lie.
So did you listen to the scores of this one? Where you're like, oh, I gotta hear these.
I did, and so yeah, you see my hand moving there, and that was a little bit controversial because some of the judges didn't like that, but at the end of the day, they didn't do anything about it.
I think I even heard about it because it was like you. It's not like you move to like for your balance. You move for the takeoff. So
Yeah,
like people are like, yeah, it's fine. Like she's like let her do it.
yeah. I could tell us a quick story actually about that. So Drew, it was right before my final, and one of the judges went up to Drew, and she was like, "So what are you going to do about your diver moving her hand?" And he was like, he was just like in the zone kind of because he wasn't like thinking like some judge would come up to him and say that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's fine. And like I think he just walked away and
Oh, is that what he said to the judge?
I think it was just like I don't know if he even said anything. He didn't want to deal with it at the time because I was about to compete in the finals.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, no one really said anything after that, and I worked really hard to stop moving it after this meet. So
Do you move it on? So you do the twister now.
I do, and I do not move it. But
Oh.
I don't think I do. It's definitely not as drastic as this.
Well, the twister is probably a whole lot. It's a much easier dive than this, 100%.
Yeah, and I honestly I can't even tell you why I did this, but it was seriously just a weird thing.
But it's so good. This was probably the best one I've ever seen you do.
Yeah. I think I hit one similar to this in the semi, funny enough, at trials. And I remember the Nevada coach, I think it was, she came up to me and she's like, "You do a list like that, you could beat the Chinese." And lo and behold, I beat one of the Chinese in this list. It was so crazy. I was like, "You're nuts."
Well, that's how it goes. Like, it's not like you can control what they do. So if you just like dive how you can, like, you honestly would be so surprised. Which is why I was like, I'm happy you picked this one because I was like, you were for sure surprised by how well you did.
I was so surprised, and I cracked a smile. I was trying not to, like, I always try to keep a game face, and I remember looking at Drew, and he was just like, he gave me this big old smile, which like doesn't really happen often. So I was like, I just had to smile back.
No, that's the best feeling, especially on 10 meter where you're like, oh, that was kind of good, and then you like get out and you like,
I was like, okay, I'll
like
smile.
it's happened to you way more than me, but like especially in high like competitions where there's like a lot of pressure and there's like a lot of people there and you like hit a dive and you're like, ooh, and then you just feel so good, like you're like, ooh, like it's just like a great feeling to like do a great dive and you just like I don't know, you just like keep it moving, but it just feels so good. You can't really, it's like a feeling you can't really explain.
You cannot, yeah, seriously, cannot explain it. It's such an amazing feeling. Oh my gosh, I didn't even know I was at 290 after 4. That's crazy.
Mm-hmm. You made zones.
I did. Oh my gosh.
So
Yeah,
that,
but that's so cool because I was telling Manny earlier, I'm not a scoreboard watcher. So I had no idea where I was at. I had no idea what my score was. So it's really cool to kind of see my scores coming through after each round to see where I was at. So this is so cool.
It says down here you're in second after this round.
I know. What?
Mm-hmm. Well, a 290 is a pretty respectable. I mean, last year at Big Tens, you need like a 270 to win. So you're already at a 290, not even doing your last dive. But you won Big Tens every single year you competed in it, didn't you? Obviously.
I did.
So, in what was your college PR?
Oh my gosh, it was my freshman year. It was wild. You're not even gonna believe the score. You're seriously not gonna. And I dove well, so like obviously everyone knows Big Ten scores are super inflated.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm pretty sure that this list could have scored like a 390 at nationals, but I got a 424.
Oh, that's actually insane.
It's actually insane, and like I said, not a scoreboard watcher. I remember looking up at the scoreboard. I'm pretty sure I laughed because I was like, "That's not real life."
Yeah. A 424. Like, just to put it into perspective for those who don't know, like, usually if you're at a big international meet for women's platform, the winner gets like a 430 or something, and second usually is at like a 390 or something. Like, it's usually only
430 is a huge score.
Yeah.
Like if you see it's usually a Chinese diver getting the 430, but like at a normal, like maybe a world champs, like you'll see they'll be just breaking 400.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's like the norm, I would say.
But didn't you do back 3.5 pike in your freshman year though? Or
No, I didn't do that until after Rio.
Oh, you did. Oh, we don't. Yeah, you were in college.
Yeah, I actually learned it when I was in high school, but I competed it like once, but then I started like doing it after Rio, and then eventually like competed it at Worlds, then competed for the next year, and then I went back to Tuck this past year. But yeah.
So a 290 is already a crazy score. Then she has probably one of your more consistent dives to end on. I mean, a back twister is usually like you can get a quick 75 points on it.
Yeah. So I love this dive. I always end on back twist. I love ending on back twister. I think I'm pretty sure I always have, except for when I first did back 3.5 pike. Drew, my coach, wanted me to end on this dive, so I ended on this dive for a while. But yeah, back twister. Always love to end on this.
Wait,
dive.
What do you end on now?
No, I end on back twister. I'm just saying when I did 207B, I ended on that dive.
Oh, why?
Really difficult. I don't know. He thought it would be a cool thing to end on because after seeing, because a lot of female divers, you'll typically see most female divers end on a back 2.5, 1.5.
Yes.
But he wanted me to be different, so we were going to end on 207B to break it up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that actually is a good idea. But I think it comes down to like, especially to do that dive, like if you're having a good meet, I think it's going to go well. But if you're having a bad meet, you're going to be like, oh, hell, here we go.
Yeah. It's just such a hard dive.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, okay, let's go.
So you're the only woman, especially internationally, competing that dive.
At the time, yeah. I don't think anyone has since. I'm pretty sure they haven't since. I know that. I'm pretty sure I'm like the third American to do it. I know Haley Ishimatsu did it and Laura Wilkinson did it.
Mm-hmm. There was a few Chinese divers who actually did it pretty well, but they never made it to compete it internationally.
A handful of Chinese divers for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a really hard dive. But
anyway.
It's hard for a reason. So
yeah. Now we're back to Tuck. So
yeah,
to show you how hard it is. But yeah, back twist.
Okay.
This is dive I love to end on.
Okay, here we go. Look at that face. Ooh.
I hate the way
So you were probably really excited because you're like, oh, I just got to back twist and keep it moving.
Yeah. I love when I finish my fourth round dive because I'm like, oh, I just have back twist. So I almost like relax a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I got twisted a little bit. I was having a little bit of trouble on the entries of this twisting. A little bit. I don't know if you can tell.
Honestly, I thought this was a pretty good one for you. I think I have seen you have that issue of like casting to the side a little bit. Mm-hmm. But I think this one was pretty good. I thought this one was really good for you. Your lineups have gotten so much better even since this meet.
Honestly, I'm gonna have to agree with you. I feel like they're just they're not as sharp here. Yeah, I was really consistent in this list, of course, but
Hmm.
yeah, they're not as sharp. I don't think.
I think
Yeah.
you're just I think you just stopped going as deep. Honestly,
Yeah, yeah, it's that entry. Underwater.
let me go back because I think they showed your underwater. So can I ask really quick before we look at that? What do
Yeah.
you think about like what is your main like when you're doing this dive? Like, where do you like okay like is this just a complete autopilot dive or were you like do this that and a third?
It usually is, yeah. But in the last few years, I've really been working on technique for this because my takeoff can sometimes be like I lead with my head a bit, as you can see.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been trying to like work in the legs a little bit loose right there. So
Mm-hmm.
I've been trying to be um, a little better on that start. So I'm trying to like at least move with my upper body and like lower body at the same time. Kind of like see my feet coming up as much as I can before I start twisting.
Mm-hmm.
Try to twist with my arms a little bit higher because I kind of have a tendency to twist my arms kind of a little too low, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. I say
So
that to my
yeah,
athletes.
yeah. So I've been trying to do that the past few years, and I think it's gotten a lot better. But typically, this dive is pretty autopilot for me. Yeah.
So it's interesting because I tell my athletes because people feel like you know you just get better with diving as you keep doing it and like obviously that's true but like you have to like when you start getting to the level of like being a high level Olympic athlete you need to start focusing on those small details like you got to start being comfortable with like watching your toes come up on this hard ass dive
Right.
right here and like making sure your feet are tight and making sure like right here like things like that are things you have to like change so you can get as much detail points as possible from the judges because
Oh yeah.
to go from like I always say like to go from like a 4 to a 7.5 is easy but to go from a 7.5 to a 9.5 that's gonna be pretty hard so
Hmm.
and it's gonna come
Yeah.
down to all of those things that you said that's what you're working on.
Yeah, and especially as I get older, it's been all in the little details. Like you're exactly right. Like the judges do see that, and so you have to sharpen up those little flaws. So that's kind of what I've been doing over the past 4 years, honestly.
This you do go really deep. Woo.
Yeah, I know. I'm telling you, it's gotten so much better.
That
I want to be side by side from one of mine today, or whatever.
I
One of maybe like nationals, and see the difference.
hmm no, yeah, I think your life has improved a lot. We might have talked about this. I don't remember if we did this already, but do you feel like a better diver compared to how you felt at this meet?
I feel like I do in a lot of ways. I feel like yes, there's been more expectation on me, which kind of makes it a little difficult moving forward after the Olympics. It's like obviously before this I wasn't an Olympian, so
Hmm.
again, no expectation. So I feel like that's kind of the difference after you make your first Olympic team and then you try to go for another one. In that aspect, it's kind of harder, but you also know what to expect.
Hmm.
So I kind of feel like in a lot of ways I am better. Um, I'm a lot older now. I feel like my body's gotten a lot older,
Hmm.
but I do think that I'm like, if everything goes well and we have normal training this next year, then I'm prepped up to be better than I've ever been.
Oh, that's so exciting. So another PR here. Well, a real PR. You by this time you already got your 424. Um,
The Big
but
Tens.
but yeah, a real PR with 367. So have you gotten higher than this since this meet or
I don't
not
think
in
so. Not internationally, no.
mm,
Not internationally, but
what did
yeah.
you were at the individual world champs last year, right? What did you get at that?
So I wasn't last year.
Oh,
I did synchro at the 2018 World Cup, and then 2017 Worlds. I did individual and synchro.
okay. Because I was thinking, I feel like there was something I don't remember.
I'm trying to think of my. Yeah, I wasn't very close to this, and when I made the finals at 2017 Worlds,
Hmm.
I don't think I was. I think I was maybe in like the 320 Worlds. So
Oh,
yeah,
really?
definitely a big PR right here.
So there you have it. So what? So again, so like, what is going through your mind now? Now that you've gotten second, so I don't know if anybody saw that, but she ended up getting second going into the final of the Olympic Games. And so I'm just like, again, like even if you get like second going into like Big Tens, you're like, whew. So like, what is it like in like the Olympics? Like, what is it like to get this and then be like, okay, I got to do it again? Like, what was going through your mind at this point?
Yeah. So this was like just so surreal to me. Like seriously, if you were to ask me before the competition that this would happen, I would have been like, "You're crazy." So
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I knew that I had this type of list in me for so many years, and I think just all the puzzle pieces like came together, and I was able to just relax and just literally dive the way I knew how. It was very simple, I think. It
Mm-hmm.
really wasn't that complicated in my head. I just had to like legit relax and let go, try not to watch my competition, and just I've dove in this pool before. Like I dove here at World Cup in February, so I'd known the pool. I've known these people. I've competed against these people for years. So I just tried to pretend that this was just any other dive meet. And so
Mm-hmm.
I really tried to get it out of my head that this was the Olympic Games, which is really hard to do, but it really allowed me to have this performance. So
Well, especially for your first one.
I know, yeah,
Like, I mean, it's just like the oohs and ahs of like, I mean, a lot of people say like, yeah, you want to qualify for the Olympic Games, like you need to obviously be at an Olympic level already. So like, qualifying is going to be harder than actually going to the Olympics. But then if there's still like, wow, I did it. Like you're probably still a little bit in awe that you're actually there and
yeah, totally.
all of that stuff too. So that all comes into play. Because I always think about the young like women gymnasts from our country who like go for their first ones and they win everything, and you're like,
Everything,
and I'm
yeah,
like the mental like I don't know like ability it takes to be able to do that at that age is just insane.
it is, yeah, it is pretty crazy.
So I just have one more question before we sign off.
Yeah,
What was like your biggest takeaway from this whole experience?
honestly, my biggest takeaway is probably that I realized that I'm able to like be up there with the best of the best.
Mm-hmm.
Seriously, that was my biggest thing. I was like really trying not to think about the medals and everything going to the final, and I honestly did. Um, I kept the pretty good mindset going to the finals. Of course, I didn't do as well, but at the same time, I was so happy and so proud of myself throughout like this entire process because basically, I exceeded my own expectations, and I think looking back and saying that I accomplished what I did was it meant so much, and it meant like so much to me in the fact that I was able to take this whole process and look back on it now and feel so proud of myself, and then knowing that I could, okay, hey, I can actually win a medal. I can actually be one of the best on the world stage.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was just coming to that realization, and then looking back on it, it's just so I don't know.
And
I really did have like such a good experience, and I think that's the most important thing because you can't beat yourself up about how you kind of like do at the Olympic Games, but you can definitely have a really good outlook and perspective on it, and that's what allowed me honestly to have this performance. So,
and you still could have dove better. Like you messed you went
yeah,
over on your front. Your inward was a little bit short. Like you still, it's not even like you like dove out of your mind. You just really just did what you normally did, and it worked out.
yeah, yeah. So I mean, this makes me super excited. Like obviously this is such a weird time, but I'm hopeful that things are going to get better and we're able to train at a high level again. And I'm starting back at training again now, and this is really exciting to kind of look at this and be like, okay, let's go.
Mm-hmm.
Time to get back up there.
Yeah, because like we already talked about, like I already think you are already so much better than this level already, um, and so it's just exciting to, um, you know, to know that and be like, oh, I'm so much better than this. Like your lineups are so much like look how like ooh the deep dive. This is what that is.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It really is. Like we are close to the bottom of the pool there. Like, what are you
Mm-hmm.
doing? Um, but yeah, actually, it's funny to hear you say that because I feel like I don't give myself enough credit that I actually have like improved on a lot of like little details that are really important. So I do see a difference in my diving just watching this. Of course,
I
this is a list. But yeah, you're
And
right.
that's what I say to my kids all the time. I'm like, it's gonna be hard to see your improvement because you're just focusing on little things. But like, as long as you like every day of practice, you should be working on something, and then it's just gonna all come together later on. But um,
Yeah.
yeah, it's hard to see your improvement because you're just like, you have your obstacles of the day, and you're like, damn, like this, that, and the third. But like, I don't know, like it's hard. But you just gotta realize, like, okay, I'm working towards something, and if I'm working, then things should work out in my favor.
That's right. Yeah.
Anyway, so thank you. I love doing this. I thought this was. I remember watching this and being like, I remember being at home and being like, oh my god, like she is gonna do. She's doing a whole lot better than we thought she's going to. Like,
Yeah.
I mean,
I thought that
it
too.
doesn't matter like what people think. Like, you really just it doesn't like it just matters like you went out there and just dove and it worked out and you learned so much from it and
Oh, so much.
so
It does make me
excited.
really proud, kind of, to look back on, like how I handled the just gravity of the situation. It's obviously like a lot, and thinking about actually how many millions of people are watching this on TV, like I can't believe that.
Hmm. Well, we're excited to see where you're at next year for Tokyo 2021. A few dive changes, but we've already said like you're a whole lot better, so it should be fun.
Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to it. Should be good. I'm ready to get back at it.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Jess. I love doing this. I love talking with you about it. And yeah, any last words for anyone that you think would be helpful for any of the young divers who watch this?
Oh gosh, I mean, honestly, if you were seriously to ask my, I mean, even 14, 15, 16, 17-year-old self that I would be doing this and doing as well as I did, like I seriously would be like, you're insane. But there's so many, I don't know, there's so many things that I just feel like I never thought I could do. So
Hmm.
if you work hard and you really want it, like you seriously can do it. Like I'm telling you, even if you don't believe it yourself, you just keep working hard, and I'm telling you, things like this can happen.
I say that all the time, and nobody believes me. And I'm
I,
gonna. I'm
well, I'm living proof. So
great, awesome. Well, thanks, Jess. I wish you luck in this next year, and we're all behind you. We're all super excited to see what you do.
you're the sweetest. Thank you so much, Manny.
All right.
All right, bye.